Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Triggered AF, the podcast. Now, we talk about real life things, and today we do have one of our newest members of the Triggered AF family, Isabel. She will be joining us for a little bit today because, listen, say hi, Isabel. Because life happens, and even when life happens, we keep it pushing. Yep. We keep it moving. No matter how we are triggered. And trust me, I think these past couple days have been triggering AF for the both of us.
And we're together in the same place at the same time. Yes. So that is a blessing, and that's all that matters.
Exactly. So we told you before, we are going to talk about topics that either A, will trigger you, have triggered you, or help you deal and heal from your triggers. So today we have Jay Barnett. He is a lifestyle therapist. And listen, the things this man talks about when it comes to healing for men and also how women can connect to what that looks like, will change your life. If you've ever listened to an interview of his, then you know you are in for some transformative information that will help you and help those you love to make some changes. So
yeah,
he is here with.
I'm so excited about this. This is so needed.
Yes.
Like, this is a conversation. And, I've been hearing this conversation happen more and more and more just in the media. I saw a commercial. I forgot the name of the football player, but he was talking about how important it is for men to speak out and to seek help. Ooh. And I was so surprised. And I actually saw it like a couple days ago. I was like, oh my God, this is like perfect timing.
I love it.
For our episode coming up. So I thought that was just so cool. And I was like, okay, we're definitely on the right path.
Listen, I had to take my glasses off because we are going to go ahead and bring him into the conversation. How are you, Jay?
Yeah. I'm doing good. I'm doing great. Just come off of a 6-week sabbatical with no social media. Living in Panama for a few weeks. Being disconnected from the world, and actually just finished my newest book and journal for men titled Just Heal Bro, which is a journal for men that comes out August 21st.
I love that. So listen, we about to tap right on in. So you said it's a journal for men. Now, yeah. That's in and of itself is something that is unique, because most times when you hear anything about journaling, it's about women journaling their feelings to work through their traumas, their healing, and all of that. But with the journal that you have coming out in August, and you said that's August 21st, right?
Yes, 8/21/21.
8/21/21. I love that. But now, what impact, though, has journaling had on your own healing journey? And then how did you even realize that you may have a problem and that journaling could be a way out for you?
Well, I think, just being a man, we're not, talking is not something that we naturally do. And one of the things that I realized on my healing journey, I've been in therapy almost 10 years. And so as I began to write things out, it gave me an opportunity to express my thoughts that I've often had bottled in. And for most men, we can't put the language, or we can't put the words to what we're actually thinking and feeling. We're so different from women. Women can put words together, and a lot of men don't feel confident in the area to be able to articulate and convey their actual feelings. And so when I started journaling, I started creating a different world for myself. And the world that I was creating was a world that was becoming more clear, because I was actually able to express what I was feeling and what I was actually thinking. And one of the things that I've learned about journaling is that it helps a lot of men to put their thoughts on paper where they can see them. Many times we're not able to do that because we don't know what that looks like. And we often have seen journaling be something that, that's something that women do, right? We all grew up in an era where the girl had her diary, and it's just like the diary was all of her hidden secrets and, her fantasies and those things. And so after working with several men, in private practice and working with so many brothers, we started a thing called auditorial journaling, which is where a guy records his thoughts via voice memo.
And wow. That is genius. Can we just that's amazing. I've never even heard about that before. I love that.
Me either.
Yeah, and so brothers loved it. And then when I talked about creating this journal from Just Heal Bro was something that I started back in early spring of this year, and it kind of caught fire. And brothers was like, man, if you create a journal, Jay, and even in therapy, I've been seeing a lot of men of color, and when I have them write down things, brothers be writing and brothers are like expressing themselves and brothers are like because one of the misconceptions is that men don't want to talk. The misconception is we will talk, we just want to trust where we're talking.
You just need a safe space.
And one of the things I want to highlight is safe never tells you it's safe. Number one, women often think that when she says, hey, this is a safe space, that doesn't equate
that it
to
should
us.
just be so obvious.
It's safe.
That doesn't mean
Worry.
safe to us. Because to me, when I feel like you're overperforming. And that's a word that's a clinical word. But the overperforming is as if you're trying to gain my trust. But see, trust doesn't have to be gained. Trust is developed. And so when trust is developed, I now feel safe without you saying that this is a safe space. Because it's almost like somebody who keeps telling you, hey, I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I now question, are you really a good person or are you trying to convince me that you're good? Because when you're a good person, you just are. For a number of years, I was a kid who was very quiet. After my parents' divorce, I was very distant, withdrawn, and a whole list of issues that I dealt with, as an adolescent. And for me, I just couldn't express myself. And I never had anyone to actually ask me what was going on, what I was feeling, and things of that nature. And so it wasn't until I think about 29, 30 when I entered therapy, and my therapist had me writing out my feelings. And I remember the first day of writing things down, I was just like, oh my God, this is cool. I'm like, man, because I can say whatever I wanted to say in the journaling process. And I mean, was using so much vulgarity. I was just like, F this, F that, I feel like this. I wish I was so my journaling was raw, but it allowed me the opportunity to feel safe within how I felt. Because one of the things about a lot of men is most people, and especially because I'm the only boy, so I grew up with a lot of women. I have sisters, so
Okay.
I didn't to hear my raw truth probably wasn't going to be accepted. And it wasn't until my mother had to hear my sister tell her as a grown man when we were all adult children that you never heard Jay. You never gave him an opportunity to say what he felt. And
Do you feel
so,
a
and I,
lot of men feel that way? Like a
oh,
lot of men feel like they
God,
don't
yes.
even.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Because see, here's the thing: to feel heard is to be embraced with silence, not with banter,
Oh, okay.
not with banter.
And
Wow.
women love to talk.
And we
And
feel
and,
like,
and
and I think that's the difference with us is like we feel like we have to respond and we have to try to fix it in that moment and give you an answer. Because people always feel like, oh, men are the ones that always want to try to fix things. But women like to try to fix things too, especially men.
Yeah.
exactly. And I will go even a step further. Is the challenges is one of the things that I had to get my mother to understand. I am not my sister. So getting her to understand that I wasn't my sister is that you can't expect the same function out of me that you would get from them because we're just not
Yeah.
wired the same. For
Yeah.
me, is that, I'm not going to give a response immediately. Most time when men don't give a response, they're processing.
We
Women
got to sit with
process
it.
through, exactly. Women process through talking. We process in silence. But our silence doesn't mean that we're disconnected. We're trying to figure it out. It's so much that we're running through our minds. It's so much that we are analyzing. And sometimes a woman who's not in tune with the functionality of a man, that can be misinterpreted as he doesn't care.
Or like he's cold. And that, oh my,
Or,
whew, okay. That is so true.
Wow.
Because a lot of times, because the man doesn't speak right away, we're like, oh, he doesn't care. Oh, he doesn't know how to communicate. We have an episode coming up called The Myths About Men. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about, that a lot of women say, oh, men don't like to talk. Men are poor communicators. And it's like, that hasn't always been my experience. I feel like I've had experiences with men where they were really vocal once they got their processing, once they felt like they were in a space that they could do that. So it's really interesting to hear you say that, because it's definitely been my experience that men do want to talk and they do want to get it out. It's just sometimes it doesn't look the way we want it to look. So we're not even trying to hear it.
Yeah, it doesn't. And then also, I am not your girlfriend. So it won't be the constant. And then two, and I'm gonna go out here, you know.
Okay, go ahead. We're coming with you. We're coming.
We got our swim
Here's
trunks
the
on.
thing. Most women have learned how to talk but not communicate. See, I have not communicated until we both have walked away with understanding. And I want to say that again. I have not communicated until we both have walked away with understanding.
So it's about the effective communication.
Yeah.
But effective communication is understanding, but
Yes.
communication is also walking away with clarity of
Yes.
perspective of the individual.
That is,
Again,
oh my God. So women know how to
women have
talk, but
learned
they
how
don't know
to
how to
talk.
communicate.
Exactly. Communication
Wow.
is that I hear you. I hear you. And one of the things is that I work with, since the George Floyd, and since I've been very vocal on the mental health side, and man, I see a lot of brothers that are clients, and these guys open up, and I'm talking about on the first session, which is usually challenges for, I wouldn't say a challenge, but it's usually in a clinical setting, the client is trying to fill out the therapist.
Yeah.
The majority of my sessions, brothers literally, their walls come down and they all say the same thing. Man, Jay, I just trust you, man. The space is safe. And they know my walk, spiritually, and guys will cuss and they'll say curse and they're just kind of like, man, is that okay? I'm like, dude, this is a safe space. There's no judgment here.
Yeah.
And I had a brother reach out to me on Instagram and he says, man, I'm waiting for your journal. He says, I'm married and I don't feel like I have a voice. And he said, I love my wife, but I don't feel like I have a voice. So I can't wait to get your journal to express. And people will say, well, how can it be? Because see, not being able to have a voice doesn't mean that you don't love that person. It just means that I don't feel safe to share. Because if I really become open about my rawest and purest thoughts, like I see couples that come in and a guy says, well, I want to try a new sex position. I've had more men are afraid to say that because you know what the lashback is? Okay, where you saw that at, Terry?
Or
Who you
am I
wanna
not,
be?
or it
Am I not
automatically
good enough
registers
for
that we're
you?
not good enough for you. Yeah.
Exactly. And this is why I am so passionate about connecting the dots from a mental health perspective, because just because I want to do something different doesn't mean that you are not enough. And especially if you were raised by parents who provided a environment where you knew physically you were taken care of, but emotionally you were not left to feel like a teen or a kid, or that you can express yourself.
Right.
So the challenge is that when you enter in the relational space, you lack the inability to express healthy. So therefore, you have a lot of passivity behaviors in these type of relationships.
Yeah.
You have a lot of abandonment. You have a lot of rejection. And it's not so much that I'm not good enough for this person. I don't feel that before I even give the individual an opportunity. So it's like with couples. It's like, can I really say, hey babe, sometime I want to put this pillow over your face and just, and again, and the guy never says that I want to harm you. This is a thought. I want to put this pillow over your face. And
Just
in that
shut
moment,
up.
exactly. And in this moment, see, sometimes women have to be careful because everything is centered around love. And see, if I centered everything around love, I miss an opportunity to learn the person that I am growing to love.
Yeah.
Because see, love is ever evolving and ever becoming.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and especially in a relationship setting,
Yeah.
because the men, they come into the session, they say everything like, man, I want to tell my wife, like, man, I don't really want to do this, but I'm afraid that if I tell her no, then I got to listen to this pushback. And this is why I'm such an advocate for couples. Do couples therapy. You don't go to therapy because something is wrong with the
Yeah.
marriage. You go to therapy to enhance the marital relationship experience.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
each time that you guys reach a different level in the relationship, because it's going to pull out something from your childhood. It's going to pull out something that
Yes.
you thought that you addressed, because
Yeah.
relationships are going to take shift. It's just like our lives, right?
Yeah.
There were things that came up within me when I went to college that were lying dormant in high school, you know.
Mm.
And then because now you're in college and you're faced with the uncertainty of what is life in this new space.
Yeah.
And
No, it's
so
yeah. No, that's true, and I love what you're saying about like the different. It's always evolving. I forgot where I heard it, but somebody awesome said that love is a living organism. Like you need to
Yes.
think about it like that. That is something that's growing and changing, and it can have these moments where it's unpredictable. And a lot of times we talk. I always would say that I always wanted a love that was deep. And you say that and you say that and you say that, and then you may get that love that starts to go deep. And if you've ever been swimming or diving, the deeper you go is the harder it is to breathe. And you have to start developing different muscles, and you have to really work your lungs
Yeah.
to really get the air that you need to really go to that level. So sometimes we're asking for things and we think it's going to be so easy and so magical
And feel good.
and
We think
feel great all
everything
the
is gonna
time.
that's the
listen.
And that for
fantasy,
women
man.
is hard. When relationships don't always feel good, that's where we tend to
And,
we tend to get a little bit,
and
yeah.
this is why everybody needs to be in therapy. I always say,
Absolutely.
I joke about this whenever I give talks. I say there's two types of people in this world: people who go to therapy and people who need to go to therapy. So,
Yes.
Yeah, I won't even date
so
a man if he tells me he doesn't believe in therapy. That immediately for me, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh hell no, you are not about to release all your demons onto me.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
enough.
Because we're not the therapist, and a
I
lot of
can't be
times
your therapist.
yeah, I've had to play that role, and it's like I'm not good at that when I'm in a romantic setting. It's like now my feelings, I'm biased.
Very.
Like automatically I'm biased. I'm usually kind of probably in some way having motives that are not 100% pure all the time. So it's like it's important for a man to step outside of his relationship and seek counsel.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of men don't feel like they can even talk to their boys because they're going to seem weak, or they're going to seem too vulnerable, or it's going to seem like they're punks and stuff like that. So it's
well,
do you feel like the healing looks different for men than it does for
it
women?
is. It's very different because there's a community outside of the community that supports women when they're
Yes.
on their journey. For an
Yeah.
example,
Remember we were talking about that.
Yeah.
when you look at, for an example, if you look at a woman who comes out and says she had a bad experience with a man, right? She supported whatever that experience was.
Mm-hmm.
If a man comes out, for an example, um, when I think was it Tamar's husband, fiance, or whatever, when he came out and said, this was my experience with her,
Mm.
people dragged this brother. And they dragged his brother kind of like, oh, nigga, you need to man up. Dude, you tripping, bro, this and that. And it was just like, why is it that his experience is invalidated because you guys don't have enough
Yeah.
information on who she is behind closed doors? And here's my thing with that.
Yeah.
We don't know what people and it's like that's the one thing that I've loved about being a black male therapist who's been a former pro athlete, is that these guys can see a very masculine man, but also you can see a very compassionate person. Because
Yeah.
again, for most men, they want the same thing. They want their experience to be validated. And
Yeah.
society has taught men that your experience doesn't mean anything. This is why men won't report sexual molestation. This is why men won't report sexual abuse. This is why men won't report physical abuse. Because I've seen it all. I've seen brothers
Yeah.
come in, their wives have beat them up. I've seen brothers
Yeah,
come
they're in
in
abusive relationships, and
in abusive
nobody
relationships.
believes that.
But you know why? Because society has created so much division in our experience. So what happened is the woman knows that she's back, right or wrong or indifferent. But that brother knows that, man,
Yeah.
I can come out and say this woman hit me in my face because now I got to hear with, oh, that old weak ass nigga let her boo. You know what I mean? It's so many different
Yeah.
things. Because this brother
Yeah.
is afraid. I've known guys that said, bro, I don't want to end up on the shade room as this dude who looks weak, but I'm really not being weak. I'm really just like, man, I had to leave the situation, so I took the lick. I had to leave the situation, so I had to take the character defamation, you know what I'm saying, defaming my character and all those different
Yeah.
things. And so men have not felt protected in their feelings. So you enter into a relationship with somebody, you're not going to say, hey, this happened to me as a kid, because here is what most men are afraid of. And I myself was afraid of this until I began my journey. I don't want to be emotionally blackmailed. I don't want to be weaponized. When I when I let this stuff out, when I let this stuff out, and I'm gonna tell you something. This is why I'm working on something with a major network that is going to be life changing when everything starts next year. But
This changing my life already, so I already know what else is coming.
I literally
So-
have like chills, like
goosebumps. I told you, anytime we have conversations like this, I'm sitting up here, total life changes. But I'm so sorry. Continue. Yes, sir.
no, oh no, you good. And so one of the things is and me and my mother, we have a great relationship now after healing. But my mother used to do it to me. I would share something with her, and then she would bring it back up, and it caused me to shut down. And it probably took me a couple of years to really feel comfortable to share with her again about the things that I was really struggling with and dealing with. I'm a firm believer that trust is developed, meaning that it's something that has to be processed. It's something that has to be tested. It's something that has to be cultivated. Because if I'm looking to gain something, right, I have to look at what am I getting to gain. Because if I'm gaining something, it's all about reception. So there's no equal exchange that I give as much as I receive. So in that, if it's developed, then it's two parts, right? That I give to this and I also receive to this. Because one thing that comes to my mind often when people are talking about trust is that what are you giving to receive trust? Are you providing a trusted space? Are you providing a trusted experience? Because there was a while I didn't trust my mother, and I didn't trust her with trusted things that I wanted to share with her about, especially when I dealt with depression and all those different things. Because she was a first lady and spiritual, and my dad's a pastor, so their view on it was not the same. Just pray about it, and so I stopped sharing with her because I didn't want to hear about my struggles in another conversation when she was upset about something that I didn't do. And that's where the manipulation and the control comes in. And so, because one of the things that I want to change on television and through the media is if the pattern, because here's what we see, right, when we were watching. When I was playing ball, and I never forget being in a locker room, and the guy said to me, he says, bro, I refuse to tell a chick anything. And I was like, why you say that? He says, bro, look how they handle each other on reality TV. He said, look how women will throw the other one on the bus, and then they'll turn around and be at brunch 2 weeks from now. And he said, that doesn't register. And it doesn't. Because, see, with men, there's an understanding that once you go below the belt, we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what happened is
It ain't safe. It ain't safe.
But see, and here's the thing, and I want ladies to understand this. We watch how you handle the women in your circle.
Mm.
And if you won't protect them when they're sharing something, you damn sure not gonna protect nothing that I'm gonna share.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So because you are who you are. And one thing about behavior
Yeah.
is it's become so repetitive, and the only way change behavior takes place is a change thought process. It's just like in
Mindset.
therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When people come in, I can't fix the kid, right? You're looking at for me to help the kid to stop this. However, me fixing the kid is not going to stop the kid from this behavior. You know what has to change? The
Mm.
environment.
Yeah.
Mm.
You can't change
Wow.
anyone if the environment stays the same.
It's true.
And
Listen.
so in that, brothers watch
Whole.
men watch women more than they know. And I would even go as far as that. There's a lot of brothers that are very intuitive and they becoming self-aware, and they want to be involved in healthy relationships, but it's also this place of vulnerability that a guy says, man, I'm not sure if I can exchange my vulnerability for the sake of being exploited. And that's the
Mm.
Yeah.
fear.
It doesn't seem like
And that's
a worthy trade-off. It doesn't seem worth it.
Yeah. It's not
exactly,
work.
it's not. Because again, what if this don't work out? And personally, I've gone through it. Personally, dated someone
Yeah.
and it didn't work out, and woke up a month later and all of this stuff is on social media, and I'm just like, dude, this was pillow talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's just like,
My one of my mentors used to say, um, whatever they told you in confidence, if it comes to a point to where you were no longer friends, what was said in confidence stays in confidence, no matter what you are at that point. If it was
hmm
said in confidence, it stays there, period. No matter how
hmm
pissed off you get, no matter how crazy the situation gets, if you get into the habit of weaponizing or of tearing folks down as soon as you're no longer on good terms, then you will carry that through every single relationship and you no longer have
yes,
integrity. And
Yeah.
then you're not having integrity anymore will bleed into every part of your life. You no longer have integrity in your business dealings. You no longer have integrity with your kids. You now can no longer be trusted with anything.
Yeah, and
with
it's
anything.
actually been it's actually always been a huge, and I'm sure we've talked about this before, Alicia. It's a deal breaker for me, like throwing stuff back in my face or bringing it back up
Yes,
after I've given it to you. And it
Yeah.
yes.
actually came from my relationship with the men in my family as a child. Like I remember my dad would tell me things like, when your voice gets to a certain decibel, I don't hear you. We tune you out completely. He would be really specific about some of the things that he wanted me to understand about how men operated. And I remember like that throwing stuff back in somebody's face when they said it to you, or you weaponizing like really vulnerable, sensitive information. It even became something for me that is a
Yeah.
deal breaker with friendships, with relationships, with everything. Like I cannot move the same after that. After somebody violates, it feels like such a violation. And I think sometimes there's this idea for some reason that, like how you brought up, oh, like y'all watch the Housewives and y'all are like, wow, look at how she talks to her bestie. We don't even realize that you process that. Like there's this idea that men are not that they're
Thinkers.
not smart, but that they're like not really paying attention.
Yep. Yep.
Like it's so funny to me. Sometimes my partner will bring up something and I'm like, you noticed that? Like, how did you even see that? Like, I didn't even realize that you were paying attention. And I think that's something to be said, that men are paying a lot more attention than women realize.
Man, it's funny you say that because it's one of those things that really pulls at me, and because the women in my family, they acknowledge my insight, they acknowledge my wisdom, and
That's
they
powerful.
acknowledge
Yes.
my intuitive my intuitiveness, and even just the anointing that's on my life. Like they acknowledge
Yeah.
that, right? And so in acknowledging that, there's also this respect value. And this is why
Mhm.
respect is so big to men, because to a man, love is not love for him. Respect is love. We
Yep.
interpret
Mhm.
we interpret respect as love. If there's no
Yeah.
respect, I don't care how much you cooking and cleaning. That doesn't mean anything to me if I don't feel
Yeah.
respected. And
Yeah,
so
that's
in that
something else my
place,
dad would say. Remember, I always say,
Yeah.
he would say, women want to be adored, men want to be respected.
Yep.
And
yeah, that's so true.
that's how we communicate
And
love. That's one level of that communication.
yeah, and I think too when you look at in the black community, we have just had so many unhealthy and dysfunctional display of what love is. Everything has been associated with pain. Everything has been associated with tolerating abuse. Everything has been so dysfunctional when it comes to blacks,
Mhm.
even in relationships. Even when you look on television, that's kicking, screaming, cursing. He's got multiple baby mamas. He's
Yeah,
got
yeah,
side chicks.
every
He only
time.
wants the bag. So all of our display are so unhealthy. So what happened is when a healed person shows up, this is a foreigner
What is that?
for most
What
Listen,
is
people.
that even? What do I do with
When
this?
listen,
when
and
when
people, yeah. Listen, people
man,
will fight to go back to the dysfunction.
It's
We'll
familiar.
fight.
it's
We'll
Hmm.
go back
familiar.
to what is dysfunctional, what constantly hurts you. I went on a date with a young man, and he asked me because we both were talking about our experiences in therapy, and he asked me, he was like, I have a lot of love to give. And, he's read my social media, read some interviews that I had done. And so he asked me, he's like, you've gone through quite a bit. Do you know how to accept and receive love? He's like, because I have a whole lot of it. And I was like, what you've read is what I've experienced in my past. Because of all the healing and the inner work and the shadow work that I've gone through, all I now know is a good, healthy love. If you get to the point to where you recognize, there's a book called The Big Leap. And in that book, it talks about an upper limit problem, where once you get to a level of acceptance or success or love, you will fight yourself to get back down to what hurts you, what harms you, and what allows you to stay comfortable.
Yeah, because the ego's trying to protect you.
It wants to protect you. It's like, oh, no, 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 no. If the love feels too good, it's not real. Run, sis, run.
Yeah.
Or run, bro, run. And there comes a point in your life after you've done so much work that you decide, okay, the healing has taken place, but now what does growth look like? And so now with all the conversations around toxic masculinity, you said earlier, nothing changes if the environment does. But now the environment is so focused on men who are toxic friends, toxic this. Do you feel like that the phrase alone, is it helpful or harmful to the overall conversation around men healing and growth?
I want to do something. I heard something. So this is my clinical hat.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you answer his question?
Well, it was a longer conversation, but yes, I did answer his question. I said, all I know now is a positive, good love. So
That's
yes,
not.
I do know what to do with love that is good.
You didn't answer his question.
Oh, okay. Well, tell me how. I'm a learn. I like to learn. Help me out.
He said, "Could you receive?"
Right, because a lot of women do know how to give love. But I'm not a therapist, but I am a coach, so I have a little something in there. And when you said the same thing, I was just like, that's not really the answer to his question.
Yeah.
Because for most women, we are givers of love, and it's a little bit easier for us to give because we always feel like we have to do to be worthy of, right? Especially Black women, where it's not enough for us to be, we have to do. So the fact that you're not, for me especially, it is a lot more difficult to receive the love than to give the love, because I don't know why. I don't even know. I'm hoping Jay could give us
help us. Listen, we like help. We're receptive young ladies.
Because receiving is associated with worthiness.
Yep.
Who get us together? Continue.
So So there has been a lot of healing, and
Both need it.
you said something. You said, I only know how to focus now. See, focus is one thing, but to receive is I am worthy of embracing all that comes to me. Because if he says that he has a lot of love to give, then he's looking for you to say, I am at the place where I can receive that. Because when you have
Right.
not been giving love, it feels overwhelming and it creates a lot of anxiety and it pushes a lot of people to flight. Because hey,
It does. It'll make you
I'm not
reject it. It'll make you feel
exactly,
like,
I'm not
yeah.
accustomed to this. This is just too much. And so what you could do if you guys are still in the conversation stage, right? What a good not respond suggestion is that, you know what, I am learning to become comfortable with receiving.
Yeah.
Because as I become comfortable with receiving, I am also becoming more confident in feeling worthy.
Yep.
That is so
And
good.
it takes, and you know, and I love things
takes
like that.
time.
Yeah. I was just gonna say it takes a lot of time, and we're always talking about levels. And I think in the conversation around healing, just in general, not just for men, but all this journeying and healing and all these things people are doing these days. What we're not talking about is how much effort it takes at different levels. There's this like one and done idea. Like for instance, like I definitely have been better at receiving love over time. I received a lot of love as a kid, but for whatever reason, there was still some questions about worthiness, and it's still a part of my journey. And there's this like feeling sometimes that you're not allowed to still be in the process of doing stuff. It's like everyone's healed and the job is done and everybody's fine and everyone's happy and everyone's nice and everyone's vibing high. And it's just like, that's not a healing journey. That's not like a human experience. Like there are times that I'm great at receiving and there are times that I don't feel good enough to receive it. And that's the reality of the journey.
Yeah.
And this is why you look at everything that I've ever done from an interview. I often say, because I've been on this journey 10 years.
Yeah.
I started going to therapy at 29, 30 years old. I'm 39, I'm 29 and I'm 39 now. And I often say healing is a journey.
Yes.
Because when that means is that you are still becoming, you are yet discovering, you are yet learning, and that's okay. See, the issue is that it's this perception that healing didn't take me that long because we feel that if we're healing, there's this sense of I am not enough. See, if anything, healing is a sense of awareness.
Yes.
Right? Because if I get to a place where for an example, I'll disclose personally. So when I was in the hotel in LA and the next day I was getting ready to go on to Raji's show for Facebook and film my segment. And I'm laying in the hotel room and I'm sitting there thinking and I'm just like, and so I had these thoughts of just like, man, do I deserve to be here? Am I fit for this? Because I was the only black male therapist on her show. And in my prayer, I'm that guy that in my prayer, I'm talking to God, and God says, everything that you have overcome validates your reason why you belong here.
Whew. Yes.
Listen.
Yep.
So in that, I immediately felt going back to worthiness. Now, and here's the thing: I'm a PhD student. I got the degree. I'm getting my license and all these different type of things, and people are seeing me as an expert. So externally, I have everything that says you deserve to be here. Exactly. But internally,
you don't have the
I
worthiness.
am challenged with the voices that says, "Are you really?"
Right.
Yeah. Are you really that guy? Like,
are you really?
Sure?
Yeah. And I share that because I want people to understand is that, but that's the beauty of life is that, and it doesn't mean that you are not. It just means that you have to keep having these checks and balances, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And so what we look at checks and balances because of social media is that you didn't go 10 for 10. You didn't get the job today. You didn't have an awesome day filled with
Yeah, like we turn everything into a competition. Everything is even healing. Even healing is a competition.
Exactly. And I'm like, dude, healing is not imposting. Like it is work.
Yeah.
It is work. When people, it's so funny because I get all of these therapists and people that are in my DMs, like I want to do, and I said, listen, man, it took me 10 years to be a voice on public platforms.
Yeah.
I was in therapy and I had a relapse and a second suicide attempt. I'll go even deeper. I was scheduled, this is after I wrote my first book, Finding Our Lost Kings and Queens. I was scheduled to go on the 700 Club to do an interview about that book. Do you know they canceled my interview because they found out I had a relapse and I had a second suicide attempt with a drug overdose? They came back to my publicist and said, we're not sure about interviewing him because we don't know if he really stands by what he's talking about if he had a second attempt.
Well, I really do love what's happening in sports now where women are saying no. Like, I'm still a human. This doesn't feel good. I'm not going to do this. You could be big mad, little mad, medium mad. I don't give a fuck. I'm not doing this because I'm not okay. And we have to truly normalize. And I don't like using the word normalize because it's used so much, but it's the word that is best suited for it. But normalize being okay with dealing with humans who are still processing, still becoming, still growing, because that my still growing, still processing, still becoming does not invalidate what I bring to the table. Exactly. It doesn't invalidate me.
And I want to say this: there is a psychologist by the name of Dr. Williams, Monica Williams, out of Canada. I think she's out of the University of Ottawa. And she said one of the things that has been a trap for a lot of Black women is they've been bred to be so strong, right? They've been bred that they have to, you know what I'm saying? They are the, and this is why I don't like, there's this picture of the Black woman, this beautiful artwork, but then she has a world on her back. See, all of that symbolism is negative impartation to the psyche that I carry the world. No, you don't. So
and I say it all the time.
And I don't want to either.
I tell people, don't call me strong. Your idea of strong means I got to suffer.
And I don't like it because even in the psychology world, they don't understand that. I'm being honest. I'm gonna go here. White people, even in the world of psychology, they don't even view Black people as humans. They see us to be these super specimens. So I had oral surgery. I had oral surgery about it's been about a month ago. Asian doctor. This dude hit a nerve. He shot me with the numbing thing, and I literally said, he was like, "Oh, this feel like pressure." I said, "No, dude, this is painful. This is pain." "Oh no, you sure this?" I said, "Dude, this is painful." His whole thing was, and then he was like, "Oh man, you big football player, you should be fine." I said, "Dude, I'm telling you, stop.
No, this is painful. Real. It's the reason. No, that's true. It's true.
But even their mindset is nothing hurts you guys. It's just really sad and unfortunate, that we are viewed in that light, and this is why I'm so glad my university is bringing me back next month, North Central University, to be the guest lecturer. The title of my lecture is Clinical Practice versus Reality. And so, and basically talking about, it's so dope that, the dean of students, who's a white guy, man, he's so dope. Dr. Addison, who is highly supporter. He watched all of my interviews. And it's been so unique because they've never had someone, who lead and kind of do what I'm doing with mental health. And so I'm just blessed to be able to begin shifting the atmosphere, because we really do need representation, because to be honest, they don't have it. They don't even have enough research study on what works for Blacks, even in the mental health. And that's why they have our kids up on lithium, if they're struggling with bipolar, they've labeled them,
Or ADD,
ADHD
everything.
and all those
Everything is
different
an
things.
ADD.
And so,
Yeah.
it's just been a blessing to be in this space as a Black man and to really, really set the stage for others that are in this space. Because for me, when I was in grad school, I said, I don't want to be in an office every day just seeing clients. I want to be visible to
Yeah.
the public. I want to be visible to the masses because I want to bring understanding and insight. I want to connect the dots. I want to help
Yeah.
people to define the language for it. Because see, I can help one person with their stuff behind, in private practice, but we need mass representation. We need a voice on television, and we need a voice, in entertainment. We just need to hear that because we
Yeah.
need to normalize healing for us, not for them, but for us.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying that of course you can do one-on-one, but the Black community needs healing as a collective.
As a collective.
Collective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely needs to be like mass produced healing
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
can't afford to just heal in small
In pods.
can't afford that. It has to be drastic because what
Yeah.
has happened to destroy and damage us has been so drastic.
Yep.
The healing has to also be the other extreme of that because that's the
Drastic.
only way to balance it out.
yep. Because it's going to take so much work and effort because even when you're an MFT student, therapy was created for Anglos and Europeans, so it was not created
Yes.
for
Yeah.
Blacks. All you got to do is look at the American Psychology Association. 41,000 psychiatrists across the country, and less than 2% are Black. So, what information do you have that's credible enough to support when a Black client walks into your office when all of your information and the context that you have has been distorted or tainted by someone who doesn't even have the background or even culturally competent enough to give a supportive method or strategy?
What are some questions you feel like maybe Black people need to be asking therapists before they even go through a session? Like, what are some things they maybe need to know just up front to save everybody's time and money?
Well, I think one of the questions to ask is how many, what has been your experience when you're working with a Black client? How much do you know about Black culture? That's a solid question. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I never forget, when I had a Asian client come in and they asked me like, are you familiar with Asian culture and how our households are ran? And I was like, absolutely. I've worked with a same-sex couple, and they asked me, have you worked with, the LGBT community before? What
That's
was your
so important.
experience? And all those different things.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I did when I was in grad school is I worked with every race during my internship phase. I worked with gay people. I worked with Asian. I worked with Hispanics. I was working with whites, and I'm in Dallas, and 60% of my clients are white. So, and there's and I mean, and it was funny. I say this always a joking way. White people were like, we want that guy because, and one of the things is that I understood, and I'm in a very affluent community at the private practice that I was a part of. I had an understanding that I didn't care that your kid was rich or your kid had money. Your kid had the same issues as his Black kid, identity issues.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So one
Yeah.
has access,
Identity.
what the way I would connect the dots, one has access to weed, the other one has access to cocaine. Same issue.
Yep.
Yeah. Same issues.
Same issue.
Literally.
You know what I mean?
Same
issue.
issues.
And I'm talking about
Yeah.
prominent, I'm talking about white people who are, that are, in high places was bringing their kids in. And I mean, to this day, I left private practice May 15th, and there's not a day I don't have at least 5 to 10 emails of people who are still trying to get me to work with their kids because I was able to be, and I never look at myself as I'm a Black man working with these kids. I look at them as you're no different from you know what I'm saying, Jaquan, you know what I mean? You guys are all trying to find yourself, you know? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's just and it was just unique because I was seeing everybody, you know, Hispanic kids, gay
Yeah.
kids. I mean, just the
Yeah.
athletes. And but that my passion has always been with teenagers. But you know, and I'm so glad that God allowed my purpose to evolve, even now into working with men in sports and just men in generally and just young boys. And that's been the beauty of this journey is that the purpose continues to evolve as I grow.
Mm.
'Cause it's like going into a school. You know, the only time you may see a black man or a man in a school if he's a coach. So, you know, there was days where kids would come into the office and they'd be like, "Oh snap!" You know what I mean? You know, this is a black dude. So that is true. The representation is often not there when it comes to, you know, our African American population, and then too, especially men, because most kids literally would tell their parents, and their parents was like, "Well, Jay, it took us a while to find you because you know if even if you go on psychology today, there's not many black male therapists that look like me. Now you may have some older gentlemen, but for the most of the kids, like man, I'm not talking that old man. And a lot of the kids didn't want to talk to
Right. Right.
females, and a lot of the kids didn't want to talk to female therapists. So, and then you know,
Mm.
you come in my office, I got a dope hoodie on, and I got some J's on or something. So, you know, I got some music in the background. These kids felt like, man, this is cool.
I love it.
And
Yeah.
and when that session started, man, I
Mm.
was able to go as deep as they wanted to go, and they left feeling empowered
Yeah.
because they now knew that
Yes.
they issue didn't have to control or dictate their life.
I love it. I love it. So I want to make sure we stay connected to you and with you. Where can we follow you? I know your journal, Just Heal Bro, comes out the 21st. So where can we stay connected? Where can we buy it, purchase, and support? Because it's time for some drastic change.
Yeah. So the Just Heal Bro journal comes out 8/21/21. That journal will be available on Amazon, iTunes, Barnes and Nobles, and anywhere that you can get any reading material or your book. If you're looking for, I do virtual counseling and coaching, kjbcoaching.com. So, and then you can follow me on King J Barnett on Twitter and Instagram.
You know, I really like when we bring men on because
So do I.
it's like the podcast is for me.
Exactly.
And
This one's for
I
me.
need to get my stuff together. So this was so enlightening, and I think that so many men are going to benefit from
And
seeing,
women.
and women are going to just benefit from just seeing. Like, again, it's all about the representation and just hearing someone that has your background. That and it's silly, but it's like someone that looks like you, talks like you, being like, hey, like. I need a heal. I want a safe place to talk. I want to be vulnerable. This is how you do it. I just think that's so powerful to see, and it literally makes my day. So thank you for being
Yeah,
that
thank you.
example and that representation
Yeah,
of another form of cool, right? Like this is
right,
cool. This is dope. This is
right,
what we
right.
need to
Yeah,
aspire to be. So I like that. Absolutely.
right. Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. I cannot
Yes,
wait until folks hear this one. All
yes.
right.
No, thank you for
Thank
having me. I
you
look forward to
guys.
hearing it. All right, y'all have a
All
good
right.
one.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Triggered AF. Remember, don't be consumed by your triggers. Confront it and then work to release it. Whether you leave us more triggered than you came or you're feeling like you've been open to a new perspective, our hope is that you've grown. Make sure to share this episode with a friend who's trigger happy and tag us while you're listening. We can't wait to hear from you. Until next week, pull it together, girl.